At the beginning of the story, a dead body is shown hanging from a tree behind a river in a deserted area. It was the year 1830. In the next scene, we see the main character of the movie, Augustus Landor, washing his hands on the riverbank. Landor is a retired policeman who, after retirement, lives in a small house built beside the river. Then, some people from a military academy come to meet Landor. Actually, the dead body shown at the beginning of the movie belonged to a student of that academy, and they wanted Landor to investigate the case. Landor had solved many complicated cases during his time in the police force, which earned him great respect from the top officials of the city. Because of this, the captain of the academy personally came to his house to pick him up. After reaching the academy's office, the captain praises Landor, saying that the governor himself has decided to bring Landor in to solve the case. Although Landor was a very successful policeman, in the past few years, he had faced a mountain of sorrow in his personal life. His wife had died 3 years ago, and his daughter had run away from home with someone. Because of this, he began to feel very lonely. Due to his loneliness, Landor started drinking and became dependent on alcohol. The colonel was already aware of the problems in Landor's personal life, so he felt uneasy about giving him such a big responsibility in this difficult situation. However, putting his personal problems aside, Landor asks the colonel the reason for calling him there. The colonel tells him that a student of the academy named Fry had committed suicide the night before, but that wasn't what was troubling the colonel and the captain. The real problem was that when Fry's body was brought to the hospital, someone had removed his heart from his chest. After this, the colonel takes Landor to the hospital where Fry's body is kept. Dr. Marquise, who is examining the body, explains to Landor how an unknown criminal had cut open the chest with a knife and cleanly removed the heart. Removing a heart from a person's chest is not an easy task. Landor asks the doctor whether a normal person could do this, or if it requires a surgeon. The doctor replies that if someone has knowledge of the human body, they could also remove the heart, so being a surgeon isn't necessary. After that, Landor first goes to the spot where Fry had committed suicide. There, along with the captain, is the soldier who first discovered Fry's body. When Landor questions the soldier, he says that while patrolling the area last night, he heard someone screaming. When he followed the sound, he found Fry's body hanging from a tree. The soldier further says that Fry was hanged last night, but his feet were still touching the ground. Hearing this, Landor asks him if he saw anyone else nearby. The soldier replies, no. Landor then smiles and tells him he can leave. After this, Landor and the captain return to the hospital. Landor examines the body himself and discovers a deep wound on the back of Fry's head. He also finds injuries on Fry's hands, which were probably caused when he tried to free himself while being hanged. From this, it can be assumed that Fry didn't kill himself, but someone forcibly hung him on the tree. Meanwhile, the doctor arrives. When Landor and the doctor look at the injury on Fry's head, the doctor is surprised that he didn't notice such a serious wound before. Then, Landor and the doctor open Fry's clenched fist and find a piece of paper inside with some letters written on it. The doctor is shocked that such important information had escaped his attention. The paper Landor found could be a big clue. He takes the letter and prepares to leave, but the captain stops him. The captain asks Landor to investigate the case secretly. He doesn't want the academy's reputation to be ruined because of Fry's murder. He also strictly warns Landor not to drink any alcohol until the case is solved. Landor had already become infamous in the city as a drunkard. After agreeing to all of the captain's conditions, Landor begins his investigation. He returns to the place where Fry's body was found and starts searching for clues. While investigating, a student from the academy shows up. The cadet's name is Edgar. Edgar tells Landor that he has also been trying to investigate Fry's case in his own way, and he believes that Fry's killer is a poet. Saying this, he leaves. Later, Landor questions the constable who was guarding Fry's body in the hospital when the heart was stolen. The constable tells Landor that he was on duty until 2:30 a.m. At that time, an officer came and discharged him. However, because it was dark, the constable couldn't see the officer's face. Landor is surprised to hear this. The constable also mentions something strange. He noticed that the officer didn't have a rank badge on his shoulder, which is normally a matter of shame for any officer. This makes Landor even more puzzled, so he goes to a bar to calm his mind. Landor knew the bartender, Patsy, very well. Today, Patsy was feeling a bit upset. When Landor asks her the reason for her worry, Patsy tells him that she knew Fry very well and is very saddened by his death. She adds that only a few special people in the academy knew about Fry's death. Landor is surprised and asks Patsy how she came to know about the incident. Patsy points to a man sitting in the bar. Landor sees that it's none other than Edgar, the same person who had told him that Fry's murderer was a poet. Landor asks Edgar why he said that. Edgar, in his poetic style, says that only a poet could think of committing a crime like stealing someone's heart. He adds that he himself is a poet, so he knows how a poet thinks. Landor realizes that Edgar is speaking under the influence of alcohol. As Landor is about to leave, Edgar stops and tells him a secret. Some time ago, Fry had a fight with his roommate, but no one knows what the fight was about. The next day, Landor and the captain bring in 2 soldiers for questioning. One of them was Fry's roommate. Landor asks him about the fight between him and Fry. The roommate replies that there was never a serious fight between them. He says that Fry had fallen into bad company, and he was only trying to guide him back onto the right path. They had a small argument about this. However, Fry's roommate didn't know who those bad friends were. Fry never shared their names with him. Landor takes his statement and allows him to return to his room. After this, they question another soldier named Stoddard, who was the last person to meet Fry before his death. When Landor asks him about Fry, Stoddard says that Fry was in a hurry that night and was sneaking away from the officers. Fry didn't tell him where he was going. He only said that he had some important work. While Stoddard was telling this, his face turned pale, which made Landor suspicious of him. At that time, Stoddard wasn't feeling well, so Landor gave him permission to leave. Just then, an officer brings a message for the captain. It said that someone had taken out the hearts of a cow and a goat the night before. After reading this news, the captain becomes furious, and, to prevent any more killings, he declares a complete lockdown of the academy. However, Landor and Edgar meet outside the academy, ignoring the rules. Landor had assumed that Edgar must have known Fry well, but Edgar says he had never even met Fry. Landor then proposes working together to solve the case. Edgar immediately agrees. After that, Landor gives him the letter found in Fry's hand and asks him to try to understand and complete the incomplete words written in it, then leaves. That night, Edgar visits Landor's house and tells him he has decoded part of the letter. According to the letter, the killer had written it himself and invited Fry to the place where he would be killed, under the pretense of some important work. This clearly meant that Fry knew the killer well. That's why he agreed to meet without hesitation. Landor is very impressed by Edgar's observation, but there were still some incomplete parts in the letter, so Landor and Edgar work together to decode them. After trying for a long time, they conclude that the person who sent the letter was likely a woman. They believe that a young boy would only leave the academy at such a late hour for a woman. Edgar tells Landor that if the killer is a woman, then he might have seen her before. Edgar then shares a secret about his life. He says that his mother died 20 years ago, but her spirit still talks to him. She recites poems to him every night, which Edgar writes in his diary. One morning he wrote a poem about a sad girl who had committed a crime. That same morning, Edgar saw a girl outside his window who looked exactly like the one described in the poem. That's why Edgar thought that the girl might be the killer. He says he only saw the girl once. However, all of this sounds unbelievable to Landor, and he begins to think that Edgar is mad. Later that night, while Landor is in the arms of the bartender Patsy, he asks her about Edgar. Patsy tells him that Edgar is a good boy, and he has no one in this world. That's why he feels his mother's presence in everything, just to feel like she's still with him. Hearing this, Landor feels very sorry for Edgar, because he understands what it's like to be alone in the world. The next day, while Landor is investigating something at the hospital, a thought strikes him. Why would someone want to keep another person's heart? After thinking deeply, Landor begins to believe that this murder may be connected to black magic. He writes a letter to Edgar, asking him to meet at an old, deserted house. By chance, Landor finds evidence of black magic in the house, along with a demonic symbol. By the time Edgar reaches there, Landor finds out that the killer was taking out the hearts of people and animals for black magic rituals. After learning this, Landor and Edgar immediately go to one of their friends who knows a lot about black magic. Landor's friend tells him to take out a book from the bookshelf. The book was written by a famous witch hunter. It was written in the book that one of the rituals to please the devil is to offer the heart of a hanged man to the devil. Along with this, the friend tells Landor that many years ago there was a famous witch hunter named Henry Leclerc, who had killed about 700 witches. He had written another book in which he described a ritual to become immortal. However, nobody knows where that book is now. After this, Landor tells Edgar to go and make friends with the soldiers and try to find out who among them knows about black magic. Edgar does exactly that. He becomes friends with a group of soldiers and learns that the doctor's son, Artemis, knows about black magic. On some excuse, Edgar meets Artemis and becomes friends with him. One day, Artemis invites Edgar to a party. Edgar tells everything to Landor as well. From then on, Landor and Edgar start investigating Artemis together. That night, Edgar goes to Artemis's party, where some of Artemis's friends are also present. Edgar befriends them by reciting colorful poetry to them. While talking, Edgar learns that Artemis and his friend Bellinger both knew Fry very well. He also finds out that Fry was in love with Artemis's sister, but she betrayed him in love. On the other hand, while Landor was sleeping, he heard someone crying. When he gets closer, he sees his own daughter crying there. She was crying a lot, but she disappeared the very next moment. Landor becomes very upset and starts crying, remembering his daughter. Since the separation from his daughter, such emotional incidents had become common for Landor. The next morning, during Fry's funeral, Fry's mother comes to Landor and gives him Fry's diary, hoping it would help with the investigation. Everything inside the diary was written in a secret code. Understanding what was written in it was not an easy task, but Landor starts trying to decode it. Meanwhile, Edgar becomes friends with Artemis's sister, Leah, the same girl he had seen outside his window the morning he was writing the poem his mother told him. Edgar invites Leah to meet him at a deserted place so that he can investigate her. But after seeing Leah's beauty and innocence, Edgar himself falls in love with her. Suddenly, Leah starts suffering from epilepsy. She falls to the ground and starts writhing in pain. Seeing this, Edgar gets extremely scared. However, after a short while, Leah recovers on her own. At the same time, after putting in a lot of effort, Landor finally succeeds in decoding the words written in Fry's diary. That night, while Edgar is returning from the academy, he senses someone's presence around him. But when he looks around, he sees no one. Suddenly Bellinger attacks Edgar and threatens him to stay away from Leah. Actually, Bellinger was also in love with Leah, and he didn't like Edgar getting closer to her. Just then, Landor arrives and beats Bellinger, making him go away. Edgar becomes very angry and tells Landor that if Bellinger comes between him and Leah again, he will kill him. Landor somehow calms Edgar down and explains things to him. The next morning, Landor hears from the captain that Bellinger has disappeared. Landor is surprised to hear this. He goes with the captain and the rest of the soldiers to search for Bellinger. After a short search,